Welcome back to EchoVideo Podcast, and we're finally made it. We made it to episode 10, boys, so give ourselves a round of applause, pat on the back. Didn't think we'd make it this far again. Joining me, as always, Shawn and Bart. How's it going, guys?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing good.
I'm good.
That's good. Parker, and also, joining us today, special guest Parker Quinn is back on the show. Welcome back, Parker. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, guys. Thanks for inviting me back. Appreciate it.
No problem. Today we're going to be talking about, I think it's a special occasion. The Zack Snyder cut was just released, so I think it's good. We're gonna talk about that. Big film, 4-hour film. So I think we're gonna be talking about that today. Just before we get to that topic, I would like to just kind of do the news again. Anything exciting get announced, get released, any new trailers get dropped. I personally don't have too much news. I was busy all week, didn't have a lot of time to check any websites or anything. So Bart, what about you? Did you see anything?
I got a few things. So Suicide Squad trailer dropped today. It's pretty cool. King Shark is, kind of stole the show for me, but I really hope he isn't Drax from Guardians of the Galaxy, because I really hated Drax. That's just a personal opinion there. The Justice League is getting a black and white version, which I think released today, or is releasing tomorrow. Ghost of Tsushima movie got announced. And then a personal recommendation is a Taiwanese film on Netflix called A Sun. And I won't really give anything away, but go in blind and check it out.
Awesome. Sounds good. Shawn, what about you? Did you see anything recently this past week that kind of stood out to you?
I think Bart basically covered everything that I could have really added there. I guess next couple days, I'm curious, just random thought, is that some of the Nintendo's Mario games they announced for his anniversaries, like supposedly just going to die in a couple days. I don't know. Because some of them are where there's limited releases until March 31st for some reason. So nobody knows what's going to happen, but I'm waiting for that because I'm curious what's going to happen there.
Yeah, Mario's just about to fucking die, I guess. Who knows?
Yep, just PC it.
I gotta just I'm just drinking something and it tastes like actual vomit.
I just saw you gag, and I was wondering what that was.
I had a sip of that. It tasted like actual vomit, so that's gonna be fun. Sorry, last but not least, Parker, did anything in the news catch your eye this week?
I'm in the same boat as Shawn. Bart basically covered the big news with Suicide Squad and everything else. But The Falcon and the Winter Soldier on Disney Plus, we had the second episode today.
No spoilers. I haven't seen it yet.
No, don't worry, I won't. There's only been there's gonna be 6 episodes of the show, and we've only had 2 so far. So my guess is every 2 episodes is an act, a 3-act kind of structure. So I guess you could say I've only seen the first act of a 6-hour movie so far, and so far it's pretty good. Yeah.
All right, sounds good. Other than that, I think everything's been pretty well covered. For the news wise, hopefully next week we get some bigger announcements and some more stuff that kind of catches our eyes. But for now, I think it's safe to say we can move into our topic. Today we're talking about the Snyder Cut, the HBO Max, just recently released last week. And we've all seen it, I believe. Yeah, we've all seen it.
Yep. Excellent.
Yep.
Other than that, I'll start things off just with basic thoughts. I really liked it. I had a really good time watching it. 4 hours, so it definitely at times it did feel a little long, but I was never bored. There was never a moment where I was like, I gotta pause, go take a break. It was really good. It kept my energy, my attention the whole time. I was not disappointed by this. I hadn't seen the original 2017 Joss Whedon cut, but I really enjoyed this version of the film, and I had a really good time watching it. The other thing, it felt like it just felt like a movie you shouldn't miss. Like, it felt like the movie of the year. And I know it's pretty early in the year, but it felt like you need to watch this. Like, it's the film to watch of the year. It felt like an event. It didn't feel like another film. It felt like it felt like an event, and it was on a streaming service. So, kudos to HBO Max to releasing a 4-hour cut of a film. So that's just my general, briefly summarized notes of the film. Bart, what did you think of it?
Yeah, so I'm in the same boat as you. I really enjoyed it, but unlike you, I did watch the Joss Whedon version in theaters. I think, yeah, at Cineplex, 2017, which is already 4 years ago, which is insane. But yeah, I was really amped for it. I was really excited, and it sucked. Really didn't like it. There wasn't much there for me. It was just kind of I don't know. I'm sure we'll dive deeper into it, but just my first impressions of the Joss Whedon version was just kind of lackluster. And then, especially after seeing, I just saw you gag again. After watching the Zack Snyder cut, it's just really night and day. Like, you could tell that for the Joss Whedon version, they were really just pushing for that exact 2-hour, running time. Couldn't go a second over. So, yeah, but I really liked the Snyder cut. It was cool that it was in 6 parts with a prologue, an epilogue. It kind of felt like a series. Like, you could walk away at like part 4 and do something else and come back, but like Hunter, I was just there the entire time. It had my attention, and it really did feel like just an event, not so much a film. And even though I do see that it has a few flaws, I will admit, it still feels like this movie that you really can't miss, and that it's quite crazy that it dropped on like the streaming service for 4 hours, because I feel like that sets a pretty, I don't know, wild precedent for movies to come.
Just to kind of go off what you said about the streaming service there. I feel like this is just kind of going off of other videos that I've seen and other stuff that I've read online, is that I feel like this is the only kind of movie, like this is I think there's no way we would see a 4-hour movie in a theater. And the reason being, I think you need a set amount. Like, I mean, Disney made Endgame 3 hours, or maybe it was 2 hours and 59. It was just barely 3 hours, and it was kind of like, yeah, it was 3 hours, all right. But I mean, I feel like you can't make it too long, because you do need, where producers will need you to have audiences filtering in through that theater a couple times a day. Like, you can't have it, 4 hours? You can run that movie on a good day, maybe 3 times. Mm-hmm. And you're only selling as much seats, so you're not making a ton of money, as opposed to an hour and a half, right? So I feel like this is the only kind of movie this is a perfect movie for streaming services, because you can release, 4 hours. Everyone can watch it, pretty much. Everyone with that streaming service can watch it. So I feel like it is the type of movie that can exist. It's one of the only kind that can really only thrive and exist on a streaming service, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm. I do. Personally, I do hope it gets like some sort of re-release in theaters, because this is the kind of movie that I would love to watch in theaters, in IMAX or something, because it is stunning, and I feel like just watching it on my TV here doesn't really do it justice. But I think that's definitely just something for hardcore fans, not for your everyday viewer who's going to sit down for 4 hours and like a quarter of their day is just gone.
Fair enough. So just to move on, Shawn, what were some of your basic thoughts and impressions of it?
Well, I think I obviously share the same kind of feeling just generally. It was a great watch. And I also had seen the 2017 Whedon cut, if you will, the Justice League, as some people have deemed it. Compared to that, again, I think, Bart, you said it, just night and day. Like, such a difference. Everything has, I don't know, like a kind of, it has a build to certain parts of the story. You get those little quieter moments that then build into the next moment. Everything has context now. I think with the original cut, because there was so much there that needed to be, obviously there was new stuff that was reshot to change some of the context of things, but even then, super rushed. Like the most rushed thing. I think there's so many like YouTube videos now already of people just taking scenes from the Snyder cut to the 2017 version and showing like how much new stuff and like the difference in pacing versus some scenes that are there. I think the one that I saw recently was the that like bank robbery kind of scene, or I guess it wasn't bank robbery, it was more just terrorist kind of thing, but whatever. That scene is so dramatically different. Just not even based on just like new shots, because there really aren't any. It's just the amount of shots that are not included in the original, and like just how cut up those are. It's insane. Like there's so many things missing. And in my opinion, all the parts that make that scene cool and interesting are missing. It's so like just, it just feels awful. And I think that goes for a lot of the original movie versus this one. And I think that's definitely the biggest strength of this movie is just context and time to let everything sink in for a second before you're on to like, oh, 3 scenes happened already. Okay, I don't know what's happening now.
Yeah, I think in the Whedon cut, by the time that bank scene is done, the Snyder cut is just kind of ramping up still. Like I think there's like 3 extra minutes of just build up without anything really happening per se, like plot or action. It's just a bunch of build up, development, which really favors it, in my opinion. It's much stronger for it.
All right, moving on. Parker, what are your basic thoughts and impressions of the film?
Well, I am with Shawn and Bart. I did go see the 2017 theatrical cut in the theater. I actually remember first time watching it being like, you know what? It wasn't terrible. I didn't think it was terrible at first. But to me, it was one of those movies where it was like, it was good, but I don't care to ever watch it again. And then I watched it a second time, I think like a year or 2 later, and I just thought, no, this is just a bad movie. And it's actually shocking to me that Warner Brothers went ahead and did a move like that, especially, you know, with like these extra 2 hours in this film, as you guys have pointed out, make the movie even better. And you get a completely different movie with those extra 2 hours. And I think that what you said, Hunter, about how they wouldn't release a 4-hour film in the theater, I mean, I remember they released, you know, The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King is nearly a 4-hour movie, and that was obviously released in the theater. And I remember, of course, back in the day, you know, you had movies like Ben-Hur, where it was like an intermission halfway through to get everyone out of their seats, stretch, and go to the bathroom or whatever. So I think if this film ever gets released theatrically, and I really hope it does, because I'm definitely one of the people that would go see it in the theater, even though I could easily watch it at home, I would definitely love to go see it there. And I can definitely see an intermission like halfway through the film. And Bart, you talked about how visually beautiful this film was. And I remember we did a previous episode where we talked about Watchmen and how Zack Snyder used the comic panels as storyboards. You can clearly see it with this film, more so than Watchmen, because I feel like Zack Snyder took the idea of this movie is a comic book. This isn't just about characters or a storyline that exists in comic books. Let's actually try and make it a comic book. So every time like a title card came up saying like Chapter 1, Chapter 2, to me it felt like I was reading a comic book on the screen. Much like how Watchmen was, you know, split into like 12 chapters in the graphic novel. But then in the film it's just, you know, one long story. It wasn't edited that way. So when watching the Snyder Cut, I was actually blown away with the fact that it felt like I was watching a comic book come to life.
Mm-hmm. I think the aspect ratio of 3:4 also really helped in like getting that comic book.
It made a huge difference.
4:3.
4:3. My bad. Getting that like comic book panel feel.
Yeah, for sure. And I feel like I just feel bad for Zack Snyder because like I've actually heard stories of what happened behind the scenes when making this film, and you can tell that he obviously wanted to make a great film like Batman v Superman, And of course, when that came out, we had the theatrical cut and not the extended cut. And so you can tell that he was kind of worried about what Warner Brothers was going to do with this film, because he really wanted this to work, since, say, through their eyes and through a lot of critics' eyes, Batman v Superman didn't work, not until you saw the extended cut. So he was really hoping that there would only be one cut of this film. That one and only cut would be 4 hours, and it would go in the theaters. And then, unfortunately, everything, Joss Whedon coming in happened. So I really feel bad for him, but I'm just really happy that he finally got to tell the story that he wanted to tell. He actually, because this was a passion project. I remember he did an interview before this film was released, last month or something like that. He said, I wasn't getting paid for this. I wasn't getting paid to finish this film, to do the reshoots. This is a passion project of mine, and I just want to get it out there so people can see it. And I'm very happy. Like, as a film fan myself and future filmmaker, I'm just really happy to see a director get the chance to make his film.
Absolutely. So I think that kind of ends our little kind of speech, like our little quick summary. I'm just going to move to some questions I had of just thoughts of what you guys had on the film. So this is for all three of you. I guess I'm going to be the oddball here. What were some of the major differences between the original and the current version? Was there any scenes that stood out to you in the current version, in the Snyder cut, or was there that were a lot better, or were there maybe even some original cuts in the Whedon cut that maybe were a little bit better? I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on this. For me personally, I'm just going to start it off. The one thing I noticed, the main villain there, blanking on his name, looked like Owen Wilson. Steppenwolf looked like Owen Wilson in the Whedon cut. And I didn't think he would. I thought the Steppenwolf we saw in the Snyder cut was what he looked like in the original.
No,
but I didn't know he looked like
store, no name. It looks terrible.
It literally looks like Owen Wilson. I was like, what the hell? So that's the one difference I noticed. Parker, it looked like you had something to say there. I'll let you start us off.
And I think you guys can agree with me when I say this. When I say you guys, I think Bart and Shawn, because you guys have seen the theatrical cut. The character development, more specifically Cyborg. Cyborg was clearly the heart and soul of the Snyder cut. You didn't get any of that in the theatrical cut. And so that just bothered me a lot, that wasn't in the original cut. And so I don't mean to ask another question, but I'm just curious to hear what you guys thought of Cyborg's development, because to me, he was clearly the heart and soul of the film. And obviously it was great to see that, especially when we didn't see that in the other cut.
I think overall on Cyborg, and I'd even argue basically the rest of the cast in this, but Cyborg being developed is such a help, especially when you see the Snyder cut and you see that Cyborg has a lot of things to do with the story there. So having him not be a part of the other one, I understand why things need to be reshot and changed for that time, because you're cutting out basically a lot of the major plot points that tell the story in the way that it needs to be told. So, and I also hope that the actor that played Cyborg also feels a lot better on that, because, all the work that he did is, actually out there now. But there's just things with Cyborg. I think the best example I can say is that the part, so when they revive Superman, and it's been a little while since I've seen it, but I believe basically after Superman flies away in the theatrical release, then I think Wonder Woman or something just says, Steppenwolf has the
mother box.
the
He finds
cube
it
now.
off
That
screen.
happened, yeah.
But
It's
then,
terrible.
yeah,
Doesn't make any sense.
yeah, and then in the Snyder cut, it's a whole other scene with and I mean,
His
obviously, watch this film, I feel like it's gonna be his dad sacrifices himself to be able to have the cube be marked, and so they can figure out where to go. But all of that stuff is just little throwaway lines almost in the other one, where it's just oh yeah, now we know where the cube is. I don't even think they explain it in the theatrical release. I don't know what they said for finding it, but I think they just then know where the cubes are at the end of the movie for some reason. Like they know where the boxes are. But like overall, all the characters as well, like Flash, I think we have a little bit more story development on the Flash too, with Barry Allen. And I think what's great about this movie versus the theatrical release is the theatrical release, I would say, it's titled the Justice League, but it's more like Batman and Superman and friends, and the Snyder Cut is actually the Justice League because every character has something they're contributing.
Joss Whedon directed.
Like the Flash, like the Flash when they're in the scene and they're reviving Superman.
They're almost.
They have a little bit of like. They have almost some foreshadowing to the end of the movie with the Flash, because when the cube touches the water, it goes back a little bit in time, and that doesn't even happen in the original Justice League. He sends the bit of electricity towards the cube right when it touches the water, because they cut out that whole part with the Flash. So what's the point in doing any of that?
I feel like Joss Whedon.
So just little things.
I feel like Joss Whedon's film was Super Friends. And then Zack Snyder's film was Justice League.
Quite literally the exact joke I was going to make. I figured out why what I'm drinking tastes so vile. It's a drink mix. It's not a drink. You're supposed to mix it with. So I'm just drinking literally syrup.
That's why it's 18%.
Just drinking drink mix. Yeah. So I've figured out why it's so vile. Anyway, sorry about that. Bart, I'd like to hear your thoughts on what some of the major differences are and why you think the Snyder Cut was better, or maybe there was something in the Whedon cut you preferred, or maybe not. I'd love to hear your opinion.
Well, since we're on the topic of Cyborg, I'll stay here so we don't get too convoluted and such. But Cyborg, like you said, Parker, is truly the heart and soul of this film, and he's kind of the character, like, I don't know, he's the audience character in a way. Like, he's introduced to the Justice League, he's still trying to find his like own identity, like whatever, him becoming Cyborg, and I think they established that really well, like him just being a normal kid, playing football. He's got some daddy issues, his mom is there, whatnot. But you get to actually witness that entire story, like the entire arc of Cyborg from beginning to end. Whereas with the Josh Whedon version, it's just he's Cyborg. He doesn't like being Cyborg. The end. It just kind of felt empty to me. And I think where this was best realized is in the first fight with Steppenwolf, where the Justice League is technically formed. But at this point, it's just a bunch of superheroes. It's not really the Justice League yet. And they go into... I think in the Josh Whedon version, they go in to rescue the janitor, because the janitor is going to give away the information about the mother box to Steppenwolf. But in the Zack Snyder version, it's Cyborg's dad who's being interrogated by Steppenwolf. But anyway, so they all go in. I'm talking about this Snyder cut here. And they have like this loose plan of freeing Cyborg's dad, but then when Cyborg sees his dad being interrogated by Steppenwolf, he just kind of snaps and like immediately starts shooting at him, and the whole plan just kind of falls apart, and it's just Cyborg versus Steppenwolf, and everyone just has to kind of improvise. The stakes were so much higher here because Cyborg is trying to rescue his dad. He's not really a superhero. He's just this kid with seemingly unlimited powers, just trying to do his best, I suppose. With the Whedon cut, it's just a janitor, and he snaps, and I don't know, I feel like it's missing that connection that the audience would have to what Steppenwolf is doing. Like, there's just nothing really there with the Whedon cut. With the Snyder cut, it's kind of there. I hope you know what I'm getting at. I feel like I'm already making it convoluted, but you know what I mean. And I think that Cyborg's...
There's like no heart to the movie.
Exactly, and also, Cyborg, that scene where his dad leaves him that audio tape, and he's like explaining his powers to him, and it's visualized. Like, it's one thing to say, like, oh, you have control of the stock market, You can rearrange finances. You can, you have control to launch all these nukes and such. I think it's one thing to say it, but I think it's a really cool way to visualize it with like the bear and the bull fighting and like him having control of all those nukes and they're all like flying around and him giving funds to that. The poor waitress. Like it just makes the Justice League that much more human. And then when they actually like become the Justice League in the final fight and they all work together, it just feels that much more satisfying because you're really there with them and it's not just a bunch of gods doing awesome things. That's just kind of my Cyborg take on it all. Yeah.
So yeah, definitely the Cyborg addition to the story was a lot better. Was a lot better of a direction choice, just giving it a little extra humanity to the film and giving everybody a little more reason to like the character and whatnot. My other thing I wanted to talk about different changes and differences was I heard that the original 2017 the Whedon cut had a lot of awful humor.
Oh.
If anybody has any standout moments, I remember a scene with Batman where he says something about something's definitely bleeding now.
Oh.
You just kind of roll your eyes and cringe in pain. I was wondering if any of you guys had any other standout moments of the humor being toned back quite a bit. Bart, I'd love to hear what you have to say.
So just in that same like initial first fight against Steppenwolf, I think Barry Allen, like Flash, is running around and then trips on something and crashes into Wonder Woman. And he like lays flat on her for like, 3 seconds before like zipping back to his feet. And it's just like this kind of awkward moment where you're like, oh, it's funny, sexual innuendo. But that's completely gone in the Snyder Cut, which I'm really thankful for. So I think where this like dry, not even dry, just like really forced humor came from is Joss Whedon, like he directed the Avengers and I think he tried to bring that to Justice League, but without any of like the development or the heart. He just brought like the flashy colors and the forced humor, which really doesn't fit. And I think that's kind of the clashing tides there. What do you guys think?
You talk about a comedic moment that was in the theatrical cut that wasn't in the Snyder cut. That giant bee sting under Henry Cavill's nose in Joss Whedon's film is completely gone. So that was a comedic moment to me that was completely gone in the Snyder cut, which I was very happy with. Although I will say it's not like the funniest thing I've ever seen or anything like that. But there's one comedic scene I actually didn't mind in the Whedon cut that wasn't in the Snyder cut, but I wasn't like disappointed that it wasn't in there. It was when Aquaman is sitting on Wonder Woman's lasso of truth and he's saying like, to be honest, I don't think we're going to make it, blah, blah, blah. And he's actually saying like, there's a possibility we won't make it out alive. To me, that moment, again, it wasn't like the funniest moment or anything, but I thought it was actually a decent moment from the Whedon cut. But having said that, it's absent in the Snyder cut. Not that I was expecting it to be there. I just thought I'd point that out. That there was literally like one scene in the Whedon cut that I actually kind of liked, and then that wasn't in the Snyder cut.
Woof.
But I'm totally fine that it wasn't in there. That's it. So.
Yeah, I remember like one moment during like the final scene of the Whedon cut where it's like, I don't remember the exact context, but it was just like the Flash was saving people because like in the Whedon cut too, like the whole end scene, like they were saving people from that town.
Entirely different.
Yeah, entirely different kind of context than what they were trying to do. But like the Flash was saving some people in like a truck and getting it like out of there, and then you just see like Superman fly by holding a building of people in it. And it's like I remember like thinking it was funny at the time, but then I also think like, I don't know, I feel like I shouldn't be completely laughing at all these people like trying to get out of this terrible event that's happening. The world's gonna like die.
Mm-hmm.
And like almost every like couple seconds, there's a new like thing I see in the scene, and it just makes me laugh. And I'm like, I feel like I need to feel some suspense, some tension, and that's not what I'm feeling. I'm just seeing, haha, funny, Superman can hold building.
Yeah. I think that was definitely like an homage to like the early Superman cartoon, but like it really didn't fit. Sure. But yeah, the endings of Snyder Cut and the Whedon, I don't know, or let's call it theatrical because I'm sick of saying Whedon, are entirely different. We'll get to that later, I'm sure, but my God, why would they change that?
So I think Bart or Shawn could correct me if I'm wrong here, because I haven't seen the theatrical cut in so long. Wasn't there a scene in the theatrical cut where Superman and Flash raced, like at the end of the film?
Yeah.
Or something like that?
Right at the end.
Okay. I just couldn't remember if that actually happened or not.
I forgot about that, actually.
Like twice. Mm-hmm. So yeah, obviously that wasn't in the Snyder Cut. I honestly just couldn't remember if that was in the theatrical cut or not, but yeah.
I don't even remember the result of that. I just remember it being there.
I just remember them being like, let's race, and then they started to run, and then the film ended. It was
and then it's a freeze frame.
They didn't even
they didn't even show the full race. So I think that kind of covers some of the more major differences that we remember from, that you guys remember from watching both versions of the film. Unless there's any other last notes, or are you guys all good?
One thing I did like in the Whedon cut, it may have been that Zack Snyder shot it and Whedon just used it, but it's when the Justice League is fighting against Superman after they just resurrected him, and the Flash is trying to like flank Superman, kind of like get behind him, and you kind of see like Superman's eye, like he's looking at Barry Allen as he's running by. I actually thought that was really cool. I'm glad they kept that in. If you know what I'm talking about at all.
Yeah, Zack Snyder didn't use any Joss Whedon shots. So
okay.
You're right in saying that Whedon took that part from Snyder.
He didn't use
in the
any
theatrical cut.
Man, I wonder what Whedon's career is going to look like.
He didn't use any Whedon shots.
Woof.
Like he didn't use any.
All right. Yikes. The disrespect.
Yeah, I do know what you mean about that scene. It's kind of cool because I feel like the speedster scene has been done to death, especially like you had it in X-Men, Days of Future Past and Apocalypse, and then you had it in Age of Ultron. It was kind of turning into this kind of cliche, but it was cool to see just how like a little bit of a different variation where, you know, he like what happens. Superman can move as fast as Flash, right? So you kind of get a little bit of a variation, which I thought was nice. So just moving on to the next topic I wanted to talk about. Was there any standout scenes? And we may have covered this a bit in the last one, but was there any scenes that kind of stuck out to you, like maybe your favorite scenes or scenes that kind of have stuck with you until now? Bart, I'll get to you in a second. I just want to start this off. I think just so this is your spoiler warning, I think the ending scene and that little dialogue between Batman and Jared Leto's Joker is kind of the standout of the movie for me, honestly, because personally, I wasn't a fan of Suicide Squad and I wasn't a fan of Jared Leto in Suicide Squad. Didn't do it for me. I didn't really like Jared Leto I didn't really like Jared Leto as the Joker, and I thought Suicide Squad was a bad movie all around. But just seeing the on-screen chemistry between Ben Affleck and Jared Leto, and that little 5-minute monologue they had together, maybe not 5 minutes, maybe even less. But it kind of sucks because, you know, we were going to have a movie with the two of them, and to see how well they kind of acted together kind of sucks that we won't ever get to see that, but it was really cool to see what could have happened. And it was just like, I mean, it kind of did a little bit reimburse, like have me have a little bit more respect for Jared Leto's, like what he's bringing to the character of the Joker with the laugh. I love that they redesigned him to look more like the Joker. And I really did love that little monologue scene. It really stuck out to me, and it really makes me wonder what they would have done if that Batman had had a solo film and stuff. So that's what I had to say. That was the standout moment in this film. Bart, I'd love to move on to you. What did you have to say?
Well, yeah, actually, now that you bring that up, before we move on to me, I also really adored that little dialogue. So I haven't seen Suicide Squad, so thankfully that was my introduction to Jared Leto's Joker, and I really liked it. Like, I thought that was, like you said, a great standout. That little dialogue, like, be very careful what you say next, and like, that wasn't very careful. Like, this is awesome. And I don't know if this is just me, maybe I missed something, but was there him hinting at Jared Leto potentially being Jason Todd? Was that? No? Because I know they were talking about, like, why would you let a boy do a man's job? Like, I thought he was kind of talking about it retrospectively, like he's changed so much he doesn't even recognize that he's Jason Todd himself. That's just my conspiracy theory. Parker, it looked like you had some insight there.
Well, yeah, I mean, I just remember when Suicide Squad came out, there was the theory that that Jared Leto's Joker is Jason Todd. But I don't know. To me, it was just a fan theory. It wasn't like confirmed or anything. I mean, there is a possibility. Like, I'm not trying to like shut down the theory, but I think when they talked about the Boy Wonder, I think it was the iconic moment from the comics where Joker kills Jason Todd with the crowbar. So that's my point of view. I'm actually in the same boat as Hunter. I think that was my favorite part of the entire film. And I think the most impressive part, believe it or not, Ben Affleck and Jared Leto didn't do that scene together. Not one shot in the film where it was a two shot of the two of them. It was either an over the shoulder of Ben Affleck and then an over the shoulder or something like that of Jared Leto. They didn't actually act out the scene together because of COVID. And so it was just a random guy wearing Ben Affleck's costume, or probably wearing like a COVID mask, with being like the body double, and the same with Jared Leto. So the fact that, honestly, for me, the fact that they pulled that off and made it like unnoticeable that, you know, the two of them weren't actually there together was incredible. And as a matter of fact, in that sequence when they show Barry Allen, I don't know how they did it at all. They filmed Ezra Miller in the Flash suit for the nightmare scenes through Zoom.
Wow.
I don't know how they did that. I don't know how they CGI'd him to like make him there, and I don't know how good those Zoom cameras were that they used, because it looked like he was actually there. So,
just to interrupt there.
Yeah,
I would assume that it wasn't shot through a webcam. I would assume maybe Ezra Miller had a camera on set in his home or wherever he was filming, and maybe Zack Snyder was directing him through Zoom. That's my theory. I could be wrong.
That's a good point. Yeah.
I feel like if it was on webcam, just looking at us through webcam, it would be a little more. That's a little lower.
Honestly, the more and more I talked about it, I was like, I sound ridiculous talking about.
But no, I feel like it definitely could have been something. Maybe they had a camera set up, gone, but I do feel like maybe it was directed through Zoom. But that's just all I had to say. So sorry, continue.
Oh no, I was basically done. I just think that was my favorite part of the film, because again, when all this happened and, you know, Ben Affleck basically quit being Batman, to me, just seeing Batman and Joker on screen, you know, Michael Keaton and Jack Nicholson, Christian Bale and Heath Ledger, before this cut was released, before they said Jared Leto was coming back, my thought was, we're not going to see Ben Affleck or Jared Leto together. And to me, a Batman always needs a Joker. Having said that, you know, we had Joaquin Phoenix play the Joker, and we didn't need a Batman there. But just the idea that we were going to have Ben Affleck and Jared Leto in some way, since, like I said, they weren't there on set together, shown together in film and interact with each other was incredible, because I've always loved seeing Batman and Joker in any sort of film or television series. Their rivalry is just maybe one of the best rivalries I've ever seen in any comic book, movie, TV show, whatever you want to say.
I think for myself, I also enjoyed that scene, but I do have another scene I'll talk about. But I do have one thing to throw in there. Is just after seeing Suicide Squad and Jared Leto in that, I thought that his Joker was definitely different, but I wasn't fully into what he was doing. But in this, I felt like, with all the like hate that he probably got for Joker and Suicide Squad, I think that for sure they definitely this was kind of his ability to redo or retry and kind of reset a little bit with his kind of attempt at Joker and his take on it. And it definitely works way better in the Snyder Cut for sure. And again, that scene's great. I think the other scene that I like a lot though is again that end scene with the Flash and getting to Cyborg and him kind of turning back time and getting to the boxes again. Just like some of the shots there, I really like that kind of like side close up on the Flash. I think that's just a really nice angle and shot while the Flash is kind of going through like his thoughts and kind of speaking to himself about like, oh, you gotta do this, man. You gotta save everybody, blah blah blah. I think that was just a really good scene. It looks great. The effects are great. And I think too that's a good way to wrap up the Flash's story in this movie. His kind of arc throughout it, and also a good kind of lead in to something that still hasn't happened yet and has constantly been put off, but hopefully I think it's supposed to be maybe in production soon, hopefully, is the Flash movie. So, I mean, it's kind of a good like lead into that and to his character, I think, as well, kind of letting his storyline end last, I guess. Really, the last to kind of wrap up and be like the climax of the movie. Kind of, I guess there's Cyborg after that a little bit too, but so I just enjoy that scene too. I think that's also one that stuck with me, and just the imagery of that scene, I think, is the main thing for me.
Just going off Flash real quick, I really enjoyed the character of Flash much more. I think it was much more realized, and a couple of standout moments were his visitations with his father in jail. Like, they were kind of minor. I think there were 2 or 3. But, like, I think they really helped up to build the character of Flash, and especially the last visit when he got, like, a minor job at a crime lab, and his dad was all excited. Like, that's just so heartwarming. I don't know, that just really got to me. I thought that was really nice. Not much to say about it, but just those little moments. That's good. It's good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
All right, yeah. Just the other thing that kind of stuck with me in the film was just right after the film ended, and you just saw For Autumn.
Oh,
That just kind of that put like that honestly put a tear in my eye. It was just to see like, because all the shit that I heard that he put up with, and all the shit that happened in the production, and the fact that like you just kind of heard that it was just producers kind of being bastards and forcing this movie to come out, and him having to step down. It's just really a shame for everything that had happened in a time of really a time that you would not want to be thinking about this kind of stuff. So it is really cool to have seen this movie and that he did dedicate it to his daughter there, and it did get me a little choked up there. So sorry, Bart, what do you have to say?
no, I agree completely. It was such a wild finale, and then just silence for a second, and the black screen for Autumn, like, oh, hit me like a truck. And then I watched a couple of scenes from the Justice League again just to kind of get ready for the podcast, and I noticed that when Batman and the Flash are driving away, there's this big billboard that says, "You are not alone," and a suicide prevention hotline number. And oh man, it's just tragic what happened, really. And I gotta commemorate Zack Snyder for coming back and finishing this after all the shit that happened with producers, in his family, and probably all the crap he got just from reviewers, audiences, fans, whatever. It's just, yeah, I can't even imagine what it would be like to finish this, come back and finish it.
So yeah, just moving on to getting towards the getting ready to wrap things up here, but just one of the other topics I wanted to bring up. Even I don't know if you guys have even heard of this. This is something that I recently learned about just doing research for the episode. Was there any thoughts on the controversy around this film? And basically, the controversy was, I have the article right here. Vanity Fair posted an article that says, "Is releasing the Snyder Cut of Justice League a victory for toxic fandoms?"
Oh,
Now, so what this is, I hate getting political on this show. What this is they think because white people like Justice League and got this movie released, they believe it's bad because white people got the film released. I am not making this up. That is a real complaint about the film.
what is
If you guys-
racial? What does that have to
It's
do with
because-
Does this have to do? Yeah, but
as if the entire DC fan base is just white guys. What?
yeah, that's what it sounds like
That
to
is
me. It
just
sounds
such
like they're
a-
saying all DC fans are white people. It's like, what?
Yeah.
That doesn't sound right at all.
It sounds like the same kind
It's,
of feedback that like came from people not liking Captain Marvel,
Yeah.
because it was not a great movie. But like if you hate it, you're just a misogynist kind of thing. That kind of feel like that's the same vein of
Yeah.
this. Okay, but I'll let you finish, Hunter. Sorry, I jumped in there immediately. Wow, my bad.
all good. So, in order to just, I'm not really going to give the writer of this even a chance. I mean, I know we don't get a lot of views, but I don't even want to condone the writer of this because it's really just a stupid article. I'm sure if you just Google Justice League Snyder Cut controversy, you'll find tons of them. There is just a thought that giving toxic fans, so that's fans that like just giving toxic fans a win is empowering them, is what they're saying, and I just think that's unbelievably. I think that's just disrespectful.
I think that's
at this
really
point,
ignorant.
and it's,
Like, is
it's
it really-
incredibly rude.
Yeah.
Like you say,
Right.
ignorant.
Is it
Like,
really like toxic to endorse a director that you admire to finish his vision of a movie,
Mhm.
given all the crap that he went through? I don't know. That just seems like mind-boggling to me. I don't even know why people would, let alone jump to that, and then make it a racial issue at that. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like to me, it's the whole release of Snyder Cut movement was kind of like in some ways, like a pay it forward thing, because Zack Snyder has entertained audiences for years, and a lot of people love his movies. I'm one of them, and he didn't get a chance to finish his film, and he had amazing ideas. Like there were ideas that he had before they announced the Snyder Cut was coming, that he said, like, okay, this was going to happen and that was going to happen. And everyone was like, oh, man, I wish we could have saw that. And so to me, it was just fans trying to help their, one of their favorite filmmakers to get their movie done. I don't see this as a racial thing whatsoever, because to me, like, I said this like a couple of seconds ago, but like, to me, it sounds like the article's saying all DC fans are white, and that doesn't sound right at all to me. I'm sure there are many DC fans that aren't white, so I'm just surprised that this article actually exists.
I'm curious to read it now because it just sounds like it's based off like gross generalizations and just absolute negligence for facts. But hey, Vanity Fair has had its share of issues with its lackluster articles. But hey, that's
Shawn, I'd love to hear your thoughts if you have any.
I mean, like I mostly, I fully agree with Parker there, but I think too, like I think that article should be more of like a title, an article being based on fans coming together to, push back against Warner Brothers for doing everything that they've done, and doing some of the stupid stuff they do where they just have their producers be like, no, screw you, we're doing it this way. I think just the amount of stuff that's like studio involvement on things that just end up screwing it over. I think too that this release is a great like showcase of the fact that like directors that know what they're doing know what they're doing. And like I hate the fact that there's like so little trust in any sort of studio and a lot of directors and stuff, especially ones that have, had releases before that have done very well, and they're just like, no, we don't think that's going to work. We're going to do this. It's like, no, I think they probably know what they're doing. So I think this is just I think the win they talk about here is not really a toxic win, but more of a actual good win, because now, I mean, people are now on Twitter being like, trying to get
Snyderverse,
forgetting his name, the Snyderverse restored, and they're trying to get Suicide Squad, David Ayer with his movie, and try to get that restored as well. And who knows if those are actually going to happen? I mean, it took quite a while before Snyder's cut was even, like, nobody knew if that was ever going to happen, and luckily it did. And I'm hoping that maybe those other things could happen too. But I mean, like, it's a victory in a good way, because it's a victory for fans that want to see the true work of people. And so, the whole thing with like racism and stuff like that, and that kind of thing, like,
I don't even know where that has its place.
Where is that coming from? I don't
know where that's coming from at all.
Because I think that immediately
that's
implies
just an angry Twitter user.
Yeah. I think
we'll just kind of end it on that. Sorry, just before we continue a little further in, I'm sure we could go off for a good while. Speaking of director's cuts, I'd love to know if you guys had any director's cuts that you would love to see after this. Maybe, I mean, with the success of this film, hopefully we will get a more director's releases of films in the future. I'll kind of start us off. Me personally, I would love to see George Lucas's cut of Revenge of the Sith, the 8-hour cut. I mean, hell, release it in 2 parts. Part 1, 4 hours. Part 2, the other 4 hours, if it's that long. I'd love to see the director's cut of that. That's my personal one that I've brought. Revenge of the Sith is already a fantastic movie on its own, but I'd love to see what else he added. What else was, what additions were there and stuff like that. So I'll kind of point it out. Whoever wants to go next, you're welcome to take the floor there. Shawn, you go ahead. You look like you're prepared.
Yeah. Well, you know what? You just made me think of something that I want to see, and I doubt it'll ever happen, is the movie Event Horizon. That has a cut of it that apparently is super grotesque and gruesome and has so much added stuff to it that was all cut out by the studio because they said it was awful. But oh my god, I would love to see that, because there's some images that have leaked online of that, and it is just super gross and unsettling, gory stuff. And oh my god, that would be such a good thing to watch. I don't know how long that cut's supposed to be. I don't think it's much longer. I think the actual movie's like an hour and a half. I think the other one's supposed to be like 2 hours. So it's not like a bunch of added stuff, but I'd love to see like just the context of that. So, just something you made me think of just for cuts that exist. That was just something I thought of.
I believe we've talked about Event Horizon before on the show in underrated films, I believe.
I think it was definitely mentioned.
I thought.
Yeah.
Hidden gems. I feel like we've definitely talked about it, but yeah, I'm just looking at screen caps right now, and they're just a woman with her face wrapped in barbed wire.
What fun!
A torso hanging. It looks pretty grim.
Yeah,
I'll give you
that. A lot
of
those are just like in the movie, but they're like quick snapshots that you see as like visions. But those are like whole scenes that were cut out.
Damn. I for one would love to see. I don't even know if this even goes to become a director's cut. I don't even know what it would be classified as. But like the New Mutants, that got delayed for like 4 years, and there was all this interference with, I think, different directors, producers. I don't know. I saw it. It was fine. It was inconsistent, to say the least, like tonally. But I would love to see like someone's realized vision of that, because it looked like the trailers, at least, like this really interesting body horror, psychological horror. Like it's pretty twisted if you think of it, like what it would be like to become a mutant in this asylum. So I think there was something really good there, but it just got butched along the way. That's mine then.
Parker, what film would you like to see?
Yeah, I'd like to see the butthole cuts of cats.
I'm sorry.
No. No, honestly, like I would love to see George Lucas's 8-hour cut of Revenge of the Sith more than anything. But just to change it up, since Hunter already said that, I've read the script because he posted it online. I am curious as to what Colin Trevorrow would have done with Episode 9, with Star Wars Episode 9, Duel of the Fates. I'm sure it would have been better than Rise of Skywalker. I'm sure it wouldn't have been like the greatest Star Wars movie ever, but it is kind of like that what if, if this movie came out, what would it look like, And I like I said, I did read the script online and I thought it was a pretty good script. But yeah, but again, if I had to pick one, it would be George Lucas's Revenge of the Sith. Again, split into 2 parts, like you said, Hunter, would be fantastic. But if I can't say that, since you already said that, I'll say Colin Trevorrow's. I think it was called Duel of the Fates. That's what he was planning on calling it.
I think the beauty with movies coming to streaming services, like in this time, especially like Zack Snyder's Justice League, is that directors have a lot more freedom to do as they please, and like funding, I suppose. Like especially if they cut it up into like 8 parts, basically. Like that's a lot of freedom you can have of something, and I hope that kind of sets a precedent for previously released theatrical cuts that now get a director's cut, or I don't know, like you said, Shawn, it's just nice to see like an artist being able to tell their story without having 90 different people kind of breathing down their neck. I don't know, it would just be, it's a fun little utopia that I can dream of.
And then just kind of a cheat answer. Just going by what Warner Brothers did to Justice League already. Denis Villeneuve's Dune, when it comes out, I'm sure will be cut down heavily from a longer cut. I'm just going off of what maybe they'll learn from their mistakes with this, but I feel like they'll definitely cut it down. And I feel like almost just the size of the novel of Dune, they're definitely going to have to make some cuts somewhere in order to fit that time frame. That's just a what if. We'll see if that happens when the film gets released. Just moving on to our last topic here, guys. I'd love to know what your thoughts on the future for Justice League. So I know that Zack Snyder has come out and said that he does not look to finish what he's kind of started. So the movie will end in kind of an ambiguous cliffhanger. I'm just wondering what you guys might think the future holds. Do you think maybe Zack Snyder will come back with fan pushback and fan excitement to come back and direct his original vision, or do you think he might keep that? Think this will be dropped to be left where it was, and just an example of where the future could take us? I'd love to know what you guys think. Whoever wants to start us off is more than welcome to.
Yeah, I can take it. I think with the success that the Snyder Cut is seeing, and like the sheer excitement from fans, that it will definitely push Warner Brothers to be a little bit more open and accepting of directors. And at the same time, I think now, especially with Zack Snyder stepping down, I think they're definitely gonna try to get him back on board with A, more funds, and B, more freedom. I think, he's kind of in a power position right now. At least that's how I'm seeing it. Like he's got the upper hand here. He can like do what he likes. But yeah, I'm not entirely sure where it could go from here, because I feel like if any other director were to take on this current trilogy, but possible saga of Zack Snyder, it would just kind of feel very different. Like it's like having Infinity War and Endgame made by 2 different directors. Kind of like what happened with J.J. Abrams and Rian Johnson with Last Jedi and The Force Awakens. Like I feel like there's just got to be such like a, I don't know, divide So, I don't know. Maybe it'll start something else. Maybe they'll continue where they left off. I'm really not sure. What do you guys think?
Yeah, you know what? For me, I mean, I would love to just have Zack Snyder come back and make a second and third film. It's most likely not going to happen. I mean, especially since he planned a 5-film saga, beginning with Man of Steel, continuing with Batman v Superman, and then 3 Justice League movies. And plus, he knew what he was going to do with the second and third films, had they happen, or if they were ever going to happen. So I would love to just have Zack Snyder come back and finish this story. But I have a feeling that if another Justice League movie is going to happen, I feel like it will be either one of two things. It will be a sequel to the theatrical cut, not the Snyder cut. It will be a sequel to the theatrical cut, and they'll get a new director. Most likely will not be Joss Whedon, but like it won't be Joss Whedon.
I can guarantee you it won't be Joss Whedon.
Doesn't want to do it, and I'm sure Warner Brothers won't want the fan backlash of Joss Whedon coming back. But like, I don't know, they could either get a new director to come and make it a sequel, or they'll just reboot the entire thing. Because I know that as of right now, unlike Marvel, how it's, one big universe and everything, I know that, James Gunn's Suicide Squad looks more like a reboot than it does a sequel to David Ayer's Suicide Squad, even though, Margot Robbie's in it. So I feel like that's the direction they might be going if they are to do another one. Sequel, reboot, whatever, but it will be a new director. But of course, my personal opinion, I would love to see Zack Snyder come back and make his last 2 films just to complete his story.
Shawn, if you want to...
Yeah, guaranteed. I think that there's no way that there's going to be any Zack Snyder future films. Just like some of the things that came out after the Snyder Cut came out, Warner Brothers is clearly, we're still saying they're not happy with it. I think that's just them being salty. I don't think Warner Brothers has learned anything from this outside of like maybe that fans are annoying to them. Because
that's fair.
Oh my God. I think what'll probably happen, and Parker, you kind of already said it, they're just going to probably soft reboot it. Or, like they might keep the same cast. They probably still won't, though, because they seemingly were saying stuff that they didn't really want Ben Affleck being Batman. They wanted a different Batman at some point. It was a while ago. So I think if they're going to do Justice League, they're probably just going to do like another film completely different with probably a mostly different cast. Maybe still have Ezra Miller as a Flash because they're still doing the Flash movie. But I mean, other than that, like,
I think
that's probably what they'll do.
The casting is so great, though. So that's such a shame.
I know. Warner Brothers is just trying to take like the quickest way to like make some money and not really care about the actual product at the end of the day.
They just want a movie out next year.
Like, it's kind of coming back to bite them in the ass a little bit with the Snyder Cut and the fan outrage of it. And I hope that if they stay on that path of doing stupid stuff like that, that it just continues to bite them in the ass. Because, like,
you know what?
It's just stupid. I don't want to watch stupid films that you're making specifically just for money.
You know what?
Make good films.
You know what, too? The theatrical cut bombed at the box office. This is a Justice League movie. This should have been like $1 billion, $2 billion, up there with Avatar with the box office. But because of the quality of the film, it didn't do well in theaters. And that's the problem. They don't care about if the fans will like it. It's just, it could be the worst movie ever, we'll make money. That's their mindset, unfortunately. And so I just really hope they learn from this, and I really hope that they allow their directors to have freedom, and they actually not only let their directors have freedom, but they actually care about their films.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Bart, sorry. You have something to say?
Yeah, I was just thinking, like, with Warner Brothers partnering with HBO, I wonder if they're going to be more accepting of longer run times, because they'll have those fans who go to the theaters, but then also those fans who can, like, watch, I don't know, Zack Snyder's Justice League in, like, 5 different settings. So I wonder if that'll make them a little bit more flexible, but I'm not sure. I don't know, they're quite ignorant, stubborn, money-making fiends. Who knows?
All right, guys, this is kind of I'll just wrap us up here with my final thoughts on. In all honesty, I would love to see Zack Snyder's vision played out. I'd love to see where the Nightmare universe goes to.
Yeah.
What he planned for that, where, like, what it held for the future of DC and for his films and his vision. Like Shawn said, I doubt we'll ever see that. In all honesty, what I hope happens is maybe Zack Snyder finds a director he trusts to direct his vision as best they could, and maybe they make a film as accurate. If not, I know that DC does a lot of those animated films really well. Maybe we get an animated film that just kind of briefly summarizes up what we could have seen. It doesn't need to be perfect, but I'd love to see what we could have seen, with paying respects and respects to Zack Snyder's original vision. So that's what my hopes and dreams are for that universe, because I would have really loved to seen where that would have gone. And it seems like you guys are the same way. So just to wrap us up here, guys, hopefully, if you haven't seen the Snyder Cut, hopefully we've changed your mind into seeing it. If you were thrown off by some of maybe the more negative reviews of the film or the negative looks on it, hopefully we've changed your mind about that. Hopefully we've given you a reason to think differently about the Joss Whedon cut and to introduce you to this new cut, because it is definitely worth it. I mean, the original's 2 hours. This one's 4 hours. There's a whole other movie attached to this. It has to be different. You still can't be attached to the Whedon cut sucking when there's so much more added to this. But yeah, other than that kind of concludes my notes of the show. Bart, I believe you have some thoughts you'd like to share.
Yeah, just one quick little thing here. I think that this movie, more than any other movie, has really made me appreciate the power of editing and lighting. Like, it's crazy how much a scene can change just by being lit differently, or just the way it's edited, the way it's structured. It's just, I don't know, it's quite mind-boggling, especially when you see like the two movies side by side. Like, they're just entirely different. And it's just made me appreciate that side of filmmaking a bit more.
And Bart, you just made me think of one last final note, which, yeah, like the reason I think this film succeeds more than the Whedon cut is it's not afraid to take itself too seriously. And I think it takes itself, and I think a lot of films, especially being released in today's kind of climate of films, every film doesn't want to be released serious. Every film needs to have jokes. Every film needs to be kind of more lighthearted. Even some more darker or R-rated films. Like, look at an R-rated film from the 80s, and then look at an R-rated film now. There's a huge divide of violence. I think films are too afraid to go that extra step to take itself seriously. And I think that's something that is dying, and maybe it's for the best. Maybe we don't need a movie about a guy being turned into a robot police officer being taken too seriously. But I think there is an audience for films like that, and I think that that definitely shouldn't die, because I feel like this is an example of why those films shouldn't die. It pulls it off so well, and sometimes you just need to have a film that has serious messages and is told in a serious way instead of more of a lighthearted, goofy, kind of funny way. So that's just kind of the last notes I'll leave out on. Any final notes, guys, before we end the show here?
If movies keep coming out and studios don't allow them to take risks on projects, we're not going to learn the next big kind of thing. We can't just keep making the same movie all the time.
I 100% agree with that, and I think that's a good note to end on there, Shawn. So, thanks again for listening. Thanks again for listening, guys. Thanks again for joining us, Parker, Shawn, and Bart. I really appreciate it. We'll see you next week. And the EchoVideo Podcast signing off.